Good morning and a warm welcome to KBC News Check, today being the 12th day of March 2024. My name is Bentro Injoel. Lensa Odingo will be our sign language interpreter for this live coverage. And for the next 2 hours also, we will be here to discuss a variety of issues that are affecting the country. And on the second hour, we will be looking at matters the film industry. Remember, we have the Kalasha Awards this month on the 31st day of March 2024. But on this first hour, we'll be looking at matters the war on illicit, which the government initiated after 17 people died in Kandongu in Kirinyaga County. And other than that, we will be looking at the state of the nation, with the latest news being that Ariel Henry, who was the Prime Minister of the country of Haiti in South America, has just resigned. Where does it leave Kenya, which had promised to send about 1,000 soldiers, and the diplomacy itself? Where does it leave Haiti as a country as well? We'll also be delving into that. So welcome. And of course, for comments, suggestions, or even where you are watching us from, we highly recommend you use our social media spaces as we are live. And without further ado, allow me to introduce my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left. From my immediate left, we are privileged to be hosting the newly elected Vice Chair of the Law Society of Kenya, Nairobi branch, Elizabeth Wanjiru Ndongo, who is also an advocate of the High Court. Karibu sana, madam.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations for having taken the seat of LSK in Nairobi.
Yes.
Just next to her, we have Oscar Omondi. Oscar Omondi is a regular here. He is a political analyst and also a university don. Karibu sana, Oscar.
Asante sana, Troy.
It's been a while. About 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome, guys. We're also expecting Honorable Geoffrey Roko, who is the Member of Parliament for Mbeere North constituency, and also we expect Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is also a governance expert. We're talking about the war on illicit. As we speak, the CS Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki, is holding a stakeholder meeting with also distillers, owners, and also agencies like Nakada KRA. And that is why we do not have anyone from Nakada here. We had extended the invite, but because of that crucial meeting, they will not be here. But of course, we always keep our doors open for that. Well, the war on illicit, as I've said, did start in earnest after the 17 people died in Kandongu in Kirinyaga County. But before then, we've had issues of illicit liquor in. And more specifically, let me be more specific, the head of state, President William Ruto, and his deputy, together with a host of CSs, has also instructed them to ensure that we are done and dusted with the war on illicit. In February 2024, 17 people died in Kandongu in Kirinyaga County. But before then, just a glimpse of the last about 10 years where we are. In 2014, 60 deaths reported in Embu, Kitui, Limuru, and Kiambu counties. And I remember in Embu, the name of that alcohol was Kadavuria. I remember a number of people died and left others injured. Even others still can't see as we speak, and left others unproductive at all. And still moving on, if we can have the next slides. And according to a report by Nakada on the status of drugs and substance abuse, 1 in every 20 persons between the age of 15 and 65 were addicts. We're talking about the latest report, that is a 2023 report by Nakada. That's a worrying statistic, if you ask me, and especially now that we are talking about 15 years. Alcohol in many countries, you cannot partake of any alcoholic beverage if you haven't attained the age of 18. But talking about 15, the fight being led by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and Interior CS Kithure Kindiki. DP Gachagua on Sunday said that he is ready to pay the political price to ensure that our youth do not drown into this quagmire that we are finding ourselves in. And unfortunately, it has been the same situation for the past 20 years. In Mombasa, Governor Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasir has called out government to arrest drug barons responsible for circulation of banned substances in Kenya. We're talking about Mombasa and all the drugs that we have talked about. We'll talk about the coastal city of Mombasa and coastal towns of Kilifi and Malindi as well. We have issues when it comes to other drugs other than alcohol. So the government a week ago, gave directives, and the first one being the closure of bars within 300 meters of schools and residential areas. Of course, the owners of bars have also weighed in on that issue, and government has suspended licenses of all second-generation alcohol manufacturers and distillers pending fresh vetting, and only those who have undergone the fresh vetting will be allowed to come back into business. Moving on, the government also announced that it will be, other than that, anyone who is a public officer, including NACADA, Kenya Bureau of Standards, we have the Anti-Counterfeit Agency, ACA, we have Kenya Revenue Authority, and all the stakeholders in that value chain that have bars have been ordered to cease operations or resign from the service. So it's either you conform, or if you want to continue with the bar business, then, well, you can leave the service. And they've also pointed out there are some people who are also using proxies. They have also touched on that. Moving on, government suspends operations. Licenses by KRA, issued by KRA and KEBS, or existing valid licenses will be vetted afresh within 21 days of this directive, and the premises to resume operations only after re-examination. Again, I mentioned and said that bar owners have also weighed in on that. They've talked about some of these measures are quite punitive, and especially the one that talks about 300 meters from residential. We knew we had heard about 300 meters from schools, but now even residentials. Moving on, security officers who flout or are betting illegal alcohol businesses will be fired. We have seen some of these officers being transferred. The government has re-emphasized that no officers will be transferred. They will be fired and face the law as well. No outlet will be allowed to operate beyond stipulated working hours. You bear me witness that we have seen a lot of clubs opening way beyond their working hours, and even some who are not allowed to operate 24 hours. We have seen them also operating past the working hours. And so that is the live discussion that we are having on this first hour. And kindly, for questions, suggestions, or even where you are watching us from, we would like you also to weigh in on this issue. And before we touch on the alcohol, let's first of all go to that report that we are waking up to the news that Haiti Prime Minister Ariel Henry has resigned. You will remember that a few days ago he was here in the country and they did sign a security pact with the head of state and also CS for Interior, where we are sending 1,000 police officers to Haiti, and there was supposed to also be a multi-agency team. A number of countries are also helping out, but the exercise is being spearheaded by Kenya. So where does that leave us? And I believe we should get the law answers. And let me introduce again Elizabeth Wanjiru, who is an advocate of the High Court and also the Vice Chair of LSK Nairobi branch. We saw the head of state at State House together with the Prime Minister, and they signed a pact where we are supposed to send 1,000 soldiers. So where does this leave that agreement? I believe because the Prime Minister, we had the last time we had, he was in Puerto Rico, and he has the documents themselves. And so at the end of the day, even if Haiti has been hit by this violence, gang violence, it's still a sovereign nation. We can't just send the soldiers there, or our police there.
Yes. I want to believe that the law of contract comes into play. And at this point, the Prime Minister was actually an agent of the state. So despite him being deceased at this point in time, the agreement still, it's binding between the two countries. So it's still in force. Yes.
But it kind of paints a picture that how are even our soldiers, because the Prime Minister himself was not able to go back to Haiti.
Yes.
We don't know what will happen to our 1,000 soldiers, 1,000 police officers, who will have to get into a country that doesn't even have a leader now.
I believe so. Well, I believe our soldiers were going there for purposes of ensuring that we obtain peace in Haiti. And our government is clear on its agenda and the purpose for which it's going to Haiti. So, of course, it's risky, very risky for our soldiers. we have to stay alive to it. But we have indeed signed a treaty between the two countries. Therefore, there's need maybe to relook the agreement and whether it can be amended and fresh discussions opened. Because otherwise we had committed ourselves to actually go to Haiti on paper.
Yes.
Yes.
Oscar, you are a governance expert, and the pictures on your screen are from a couple of days back. That is Ariel Henry, who is the Prime Minister of Haiti, who has just resigned. We've just woken up to those news. And they were at State House in that event where they were signing the security pact. Our 1,000 soldiers, apologies, our 1,000 police officers, we were expecting them to land in Haiti in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But now, unfortunately, we don't even have a legitimate government now because the Prime Minister, the President was assassinated. The Prime Minister now has resigned.
Yes, the Prime Minister has resigned after signing this agreement on behalf of that government that was there, which he led. And there are cows in Haiti, I agree. But again, all in all, I mean, the idea is to try and bring peace to this country called Haiti. And now all over the world is known that Kenya is leading the mission. Whether we send soldiers or we don't send soldiers, but at the global discussion, at the global system, is that Kenya is leading the mission to Haiti. The good thing that has happened after that resignation, he didn't resign purposefully because he wanted to, but he was prevailed upon because there's a meeting that has been ongoing in Jamaica, and Anthony Blinken, the Secretary General of the Secretary of State, United States of America, is in attendance of this meeting that is going on in Jamaica with the neighboring countries to Haiti, with an intention to bring lasting peace to this country. So I think, all in all, something good is going on. We will get a footing on how to deal with Haiti. As much as Kenya had proposed to lead the mission, but you see, it is an ongoing process. Things are happening. A prime minister is not allowed to get into the country. He has to go. Actually, he went to Dominican Republic and they refused to accept him in. Then he went to Puerto Rico, whom they accepted him, and he wanted to go to Haiti. But, you know, the leader, there's a leader in Haiti currently, who is called, what is his name? He's called Barbecue. Yeah. Yes, actually, the leader of the gang. And what he did after the prime minister left, he tried to bring the gangs together, because these were gangs that were controlling different sections of the society. But he tried to pull them together so that they have one cause. And through that one cause, they were able to raid the airport and make the airport unworkable so that the prime minister, who was out of the country, could not land back to the country. Now, it's an ongoing process. We are yet to see what comes out of that meeting in Jamaica. And now, after that, where is Kenya left with their intention to send these police to Haiti? I think Kenya has decided they're sending this police to Haiti. Whether it will be a disaster or not a disaster, I think Kenya is decided. It's on the move. But I think they will take a break, a little bit of break, because of the ongoing and the happenings at the meeting in Jamaica, and now the breaking news that the Prime Minister of Haiti has resigned.
A number of Kenyans were quick to notice that the whole exercise could be botched, because right here in the country, the High Court had issued orders saying that us taking us our soldiers there was not even in the Constitution. And now we don't even have a prime minister. The president was assassinated. Quick to note that this could be a botched mission.
Matters law, Elizabeth is here, will definitely, I'm a political scientist. And sometimes there are political decisions that are made. And these political decisions, sometimes some of them don't have to be legal. You know?
Yeah, maybe Elizabeth can weigh in on that, because the process or the mission seemed botched already, because the High Court had given a no-no to that mission. And now the Prime Minister a legitimate prime minister has stepped down and the country doesn't even have a president?
Let me tell you, we are currently living in very interesting times whereby court issues orders and the same are not obeyed. It has been a challenge we have been experiencing for quite some time, even with the previous government and up to until now. That court issues a particular order and declares an action by the government unconstitutional, but the government still proceeds with it. You know, the rule of law, the respect for the rule of law in this country has really gone down over the years. And, you know, the funny thing is, at the end of the day, those same people who do not respect the rule of law go back to the same courts seeking for redress. Of course, the country has signed the agreement, the bilateral agreement to go to Haiti. But then on the other hand, the court has declared sending the soldiers to Haiti unconstitutional. For me, as an advocate, I would advise the government and even its officers, it's about time that we actually respected the rule of law. Let's listen to what the courts have to say. If at all we do not agree with the courts, let's go on appeal. But acting, you know, using your powers to just act arbitrarily, just because you can, I think it's not the right way to go. Yeah.
And now we are also joined by one of our political analysts and governance expert, Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan. And first of all, Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Karim, thank you.
Ramadan Karim. And then, thank you so much indeed for joining us. And you've just met us wrapping up on this issue of Haiti. The Prime Minister did resign this morning, here in Kenya. And we had already made a bilateral agreement with them to send 1,000 police officers there to help with the criminal gangs that are wreaking havoc in the country. Where does that leave us as a country?
Ben, the issue of Haiti is very complex. And as we go day by, it gets more complex. We remember the courts were very clear in terms of the directions the government should take. And therefore, the only option or the window which was open for the government for that particular time was the issue of having the Haiti government making a formal request, or rather making an agreement between the two countries in order for them to help. And then that has, one way or another, happened for the government's way to be cleared in terms of respecting the rule of law. As Okili has said, the government, the court said it was unconstitutional, and of course further said that the essence of the court deciding on unconstitutionality of that particular aspect was the fact that there was nothing backing in terms of exchange of security apparatus from one country to another. That has happened. And then events occurred in the country as the Prime Minister was in Kenya, and definitely the guys who are controlling the country now decided that the Prime Minister is no longer a Prime Minister in our country, so he should stay where he's touring. And that is what happened. And when he returned, all the installations, government installations, key government installations, including the international airport, was taken by the rebels. That means then the Prime Minister had no other option other than landing in the neighboring countries and waiting to see if there is any opportunity, or even see if he is able to go through by road. But that didn't materialize. I'm sure he has observed or seen the impact of, or rather the significance of their process, or the significance of their role. And in terms of capturing all government installation and strength. And indeed, the only option that was also available for the Prime Minister of Haiti was to vacate the office.
Yes.
It's only yesterday that the American government released a statement saying that Kenya should expedite the process of taking the soldiers that they are supposed to be leading, the multinational soldiers that, or police force that they are supposed to be leading in Haiti, to be hastened. But again, this came before the Prime Minister resigned. Therefore, generally, when you look at what is trying to happen, don't forget Professor Kindiki, the CS, yesterday, after having a discussion with his security team, he said we are still on and we will be sending our soldiers into that. But you see, all these were backed on the fact that they wanted some few constitutional issues to be addressed, which was addressed in a manner that the Prime Minister for Haiti did a formal request. But now the challenge is, as these events unfold, what options or what chances are there for Kenyan police to go and intervene and support the government of Haiti, if at all there is government in Haiti? Because if the president was killed and the Prime Minister has resigned, who is the government now? Because the installation of an institution is the leadership. And therefore, if we don't have that leadership in place, then the biggest challenge we will come across is that whom are you responding to? Another rebels? Because the other part of the government now are likely to become just another rebels. Unless they constitute a government outside the country, which again might not function very well in terms of the values and the outcome that we expect for any international police force to support them, then it will be a big challenge. So I think the Haiti issues is complex and it will remain complex. And mine is just to say that our government should, as much as I always tell people that, you know, I have been in international missions, and it gives you a lot of value as a Kenyan when you represent the country in executing international missions. That has been always one of the great things that nations are proud of. If that is what we are anchoring on our move towards pushing our soldiers to Haiti, then we should also look at again what is the grounds or the scenarios that they are likely to come across. Will that be of value in terms of the outcome we expect them to achieve? Or are we looking at just saying, send our team there and then we will have a problem? Rebels have, in countries like this which are war-torn, rebels have been known to go against foreigners whenever such thing happens. You remember when Somalia collapsed, Americans went there. But all the Somalis who were fighting, you know, they were fighting on tribal line and toppled the dictatorship of Mohamed Siad Barre. But the moment the foreigners came in, they all turned against the foreigner and executed their job to remove the foreigner out of the country, and then went back to their war again of tribal in nature. So these rebels or war-torn countries have also their own unique challenges, and it will not be an easy, you know, a walk in the park in terms of if we succeed taking our soldiers there.
All right. And of course, the gangs there, we hear the gangs are ganging up. And it's only a wait and see game, because now we do not even have a prime minister in the country. And we'll be getting to more details as that resignations dawns a reality in regards to the security situation in Haiti. But before now we shift focus to matters the war on illicit, let's first of all cross over to Kasarani Home for the Elderly, where the PS Social Protection, Joseph Mutari, accompanied by 5 other principal secretaries, have paid a visit to that home. So let's first of all hear what they are saying.
Organization, there is no profit making here, lakini ile kazi wanafanya ni nzuri sana. Uchunga hao wazee wetu ambao hawangeweza kuwa na makao. Wengine wametoka katika streets, wengine wametoka mbalimbali hata nje ya nchi hii, na wako hapa na wanatunzwa hapa. Na pia hao wazee tunawalipa ile pesa tunaita inua jamii, na wengi wanapokea. Lakini the only challenge nimepata hapa ni kwamba hao pia watoto wao wanakuja kufata hizo fedha mpaka hapa. Nimesema ya kwamba nimekuwa na director in charge of that program. Nimemweleza hiyo pesa iwe inabaki hapa ili kusaidia sister kuliko kwenda kuombaomba kuja kuwasaidia wao. Ile pesa ambao Our Excellency the President Dr. William Samoei Ruto huwa anatusaidia kutoa katika serikali hii yake, na pia iwe inawasaidia wao katika hapo, inasaidia sisters kuliko kwenda kuombaomba. So kitu tumepata hapa pamoja na mwenzangu PS Salome ni kwamba kuna very huge bills hapa, na ni vizuri tuseme kwamba wale well wishers wengine kama sisi vile tumekuja, wawe wanajitolea kuhakikisha kwamba saa zingine wana waive even the bills of this place. Kuna electricity bills, kuna medical bills, kuna very many issues here ambao tunahitaji kuangalia, na mimi nimeziona. Nitaongea pia na wale well wishers wengine ili tuhakikisha kwamba wamepokea hizo vifaa. Zingine ni kama hizi wheelchairs. Nitaongea na the council ambao is under me ili wahakikisha kwamba the wheelchairs are available for these old persons who are here. Sisi vile tumekuja pamoja na PS Salome, tumekuja na kitu ambao tumewapatia. Tumekuja na blanketi, tumekuja na chakula yao, tumekuja na vitu kadhaa ambao mtaziona tukipeana hapa ili wajisaidie nayo, tusaidie sister angalau ziwasaidie katika maisha yao. Kwa hivyo hayo tu ndio tumeona. Vile mmeona, this is a clean and pressed on this. We will make sure that is for the cash transfer, just like any other older person in this. For those who are not under any pension, we shall.
That has been Social Protection Permanent Principal Secretary or PS Joseph Motari there at the Kasarani Home for the Elderly. We do apologize for that technical hitch in his speech, but he has made a visit to the home together with 5 other principal secretaries, and he is asking well wishers to assist, and also the provision of items like wheelchairs, blankets, and other items just to make the life of the senior citizens a little bit more comfortable. Just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check. Today we are looking at the war on illicit and also looking at the state of the nation. Away from the Haiti matters, we are back to some of another security issue, another security challenge, because the head of state who chairs the National Security Council said that now the illicit alcohol menace is becoming a security challenge. And that is why he tasked his deputy, and together with the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kithure Kindiki, to spearhead the war on illicits. And earlier on, we were looking at some of the directives that the government announced last week. As we speak, there is a stakeholder meeting right here in the capital, Nairobi, that encompasses all the stakeholders in that value chain, including members from NACADA, Kenya Revenue Authority, Kenya Anti-Counterfeit Agency, the police, etc., etc., and we'll be giving you an update on what are some of the resolutions they are being able to achieve. And before then, we still have our panelists here together with me, and talking about illicits. And I believe I should begin with you, Elizabeth. In 2012, the Alcohol Control Act, the famous Motudo laws, was passed. And unfortunately, it's more or less that we have not followed it to the letter, or we are having another big challenge, because the war on illicit has been there for a very long time.
Yeah, actually, the war on illicit brews started in the 1800s. It started in the 1800s. Actually, if you look at the first law that was passed in Kenya, which was the Changa Prohibition Act, it was passed in 1903.
1903?
1903.
Well.
So indeed, this war has been going on for hundreds of years. Yeah, it started with the British government, trying to protect its workforce, and during that time, beers were limited to the colonialists only. And it is during that time that we saw dens of homemade brews and traditional liquors coming up. So this crackdown is not new in the country. It's been there for ages.
But when Mutudo law came, the Alcohol Control Act, 2012,
Yes.
it was supposed to herald a new era of no second-generation drinks. But unfortunately, we are still losing lives. Should we go back to the drawing board in terms of legislation?
Actually, scholars have argued that if we were to implement the Mutudo law, we would solve most of these issues if we were to strictly implement it. And I think that's what the government is aiming at. Yes, it's really aiming at implementing it, because it's a very comprehensive statute. It provides for, the standards we're supposed to adhere to. It provides for the procedures. It provides for, even things as labeling. So if we were to strictly apply that law, we wouldn't be where we are. So and I like the direction that the government is taking, because one, I am assuming they have noticed that if you are in the force...
Let me just cut you. Apologies for that. The CS, as we'll be talking about, CS Kindiki, is addressing the media, the General Service Unit school in Utawala, Embakasi. I believe it's in regards to the same.
Mistake. This operation must succeed. Number two, we have decided to subvert any other interest for the sake of ensuring that we save our future generations from what has happened. We don't want to have any more deaths of our people. We don't want to have young people who are zombies, who are hooked into hard drugs and toxic brews. And therefore, anybody participating in the entire supply chain of narcotics has a date with us. We mean business. We will succeed. All the agencies have been put on notice. We have done internal housekeeping matters, even as government agencies. We've directed that all officers who are either in national administration as GAO officers, police officers, anti-counterfeit agency officers, KRA officers who operate this business must choose either closure of that business or they leave public service. And that also is taking place. Many officers have actually opted to stop engaging in this business because it leads to conflict of interest if you are a law enforcement agency and you're tackling a problem where yourself you are a participant. We have also asked the counties to cooperate with us. Some of the functions of licensing bars and alcoholic drinks outlets are in counties, but now this matter is no longer, it's beyond the normal functioning of any level of government. It's a national security matter. And therefore, we revoked on 6th of March all licenses that have been issued by county governments across the country, contrary to national law, namely the Alcoholic Drinks Control Acts. Some are next to schools, next to residential areas. Those licenses are revoked and those places are shut. Anybody involved in manufacture, distribution, sale of these drugs and toxic brews, any premises involved in storage, such merchandise, is being destroyed so that we can destroy the capacity to manufacture evil. And also, we are also asking for forfeiture orders so that any vehicle used to transport illicit and toxic brews and drugs is forfeited to the state. It will be sold, and that asset recovery will help us establish a fund so that we can compensate victims of these crimes. In other words, good people, we are on course. And this morning, I'm very happy, together with my colleagues here. The PS is here for Public Health, Inspector General of the National Police Service, PS for Interior, who is now responsible for coordinating the multi-agency enforcement team immediately, including the vetting process. The PS for Industry is here, Juma Mukwana. We have other senior government officials who are here with us, and we are very grateful for the spirit. We are all one as government, and I am glad the stakeholders who have appeared before us today have appreciated we have a problem, and they are willing to support the government so that we can eradicate this problem. We've made good progress. We don't want to punish any business, but we don't want to bring in other reasons that have been brought in the past to roll back this kind of exercise. As government, we have been able to say that we are even willing to forego certain revenues if aligning our revenue and taxation system can help us correct the mess in this sector. That's how serious we are, and this is an operation like no other. We are doing this for the country and for posterity, and we are not harming business people. We are just looking for criminals, disabling them before they disable the country. Thank you very much for turning up. I wish you well, and I wish you a good day. And unfortunately, we will not be taking any questions. We have to run for other assignments. As you're aware, I'm sure you follow my timeline.
That has been Interior Cabinet CS Professor Kithure Kindiki live from the GSU training, AP training camp at Utawala right here in the capital Nairobi there, just having a press briefing after that consultative meeting that he is having together with all the stakeholders in the alcohol value chain. And I've been able to pick up a number of points that he has mentioned is that the operation must succeed, that is the eradication of illicit alcohol, and says that we must save the future generation. Police officers, he has emphasized, police officers and all public officers who are in that value chain and have pubs should close them or exit the public service. And other than that, he's looking forward to a consultative engagement. He's saying that they are not looking forward to victimizing anyone, but that operation must succeed. And I will go straight to you, Oscar, because what the CS is talking about really makes a lot of sense, because one of the weak links in the fight against illicit brew has been the police. The police being on the receiving end. A practical example is in Kirinyaga, where the alcohol that killed over 17 people was actually had been confiscated by security agencies and was resold or was placed back into the market by the same police officers who are supposed to be on the forefront of illicit. And I think that is why the CS is very categorical that any security agency who is abetting illicit alcohol and brews will be ejected from the public service.
The CS has given this operationalizing this war on illicit drug during his tenure now to who? To the police. I'm sorry, the war is lost.
Why do you say that? And looking at what the government and
but you've said it is the police that has the weak link.
Yes, they are one of the weak links.
Yes, I will tell you for a fact, Troy. Such operations have been done before. You remember when we had who was the internal security minister who came up with the new transport regulations? Michuki laws. By that time we were implementing Michuki laws, we used to lose 3,500 citizens in our roads due to accidents. When Michuki laws were strictly adhered to and implemented, we lost 100 people. So from 3,500 to 100 people. So you can see what agencies can do. It was not the police. That thing was led by NTSA. There was a new creation body, an agency that was created called the NTSA. So the police were only assisting the NTSA to implement the agency's ideas. There were policies by the NTSA. There's a reason why it was created. They were on our roads. And people were scared. Drivers were scared. I was driving from here to Kisumu at 80 kilometers per hour. The roads were good because of NTSA. I will not drive at 80 kilometers per hour if the traffic police are on the road. I will go at 100. What are the police? They take money. So anything that we involve, I wish the similar thing that we did like the NTSA, we would strengthen and fund NACADA as an organization. Let NACADA lead the war against illicit brew. Let the police come and assist NACADA. The same way the police came to assist NTSA. But NTSA was a very independent body in their actions. You could see anytime you drove, and you always worried about NTSA. There's a time also we had things to deal with in these laws. One of the things that the NACAD to the laws brought was the famous alcohol. Alcohol was working perfectly. People are not People are not driving in the night and drinking and driving in the night because of this alcohol. But now, I tell you, these people serve this alcohol in some small plastic tumblers. We call them tumblers, some plastic things. I think you buy it for 5 shillings, right? And you see people, these boys hanging around the streets. Again, what is the definition of illicit brew? I'm telling you for a fact, they go wrong on the definition. I don't think if we have a problem with the traditional brews, the Busas and the Changas and the Muratinas of this world are not our problem. They normally, when they do these crackdowns, they go for the wrong guy.
I agree.
What is dangerous, and they call the illicit, the second generation, are actually brews with KEBS, KEBS poster or KEBS.
But unfortunately, KEBS has said that indeed these people are forging this authentication.
No, they can't say that. That KEBS guy should just resign, because if they're forging, they should be able to get hold of the forged one. You can't just come and tell us that these people are forging. What are you doing about it? If they're forging, there's law that deals with people who forge. Do you know that we have laws of counterfeit? We have an agency of counterfeit. What they should do, get a better act in Parliament. Tell them if you forge, you pay 10 million. And you're not allowed to get another license. For example, what the CS is saying, that members of KRA or KEBS or whatever are not allowed to run bars. I mean, their wives will be registered as owners of those clubs. You know, their brothers will be registered as... That one is just not a serious thing. What is happening that I'm going to get a new license, and now we are in partnership, and then my partner comes, the name of the license comes to the name of my partner. So simple. So I don't know why they're thinking like that. If we could get an agency under even the Minister of Interior, like NTSA, or NACADA, and NACADA is given powers to even prosecute, like to arrest and take people to court. I promise you, NACADA will decide to use, either they will not even use the police, they will use NYS. And within a period of 2 weeks, you will never see this menace that we are saying. They are not really interested. You remember when even the same Michuki had a problem? We had an insecurity with the Michuki, with the Mungiki thing. And Michuki went one day to Murang again and said, sasa hii shida imekuwa too much. So from tomorrow, this is not going to be there. Mtakuwa mnaona tu mazishi. Okay, that was bad. But within a period of 1 week, if the government want to do something and government stamps its authority,
they empower the agencies.
They empower the agencies and stamp the authority. Okay. You will see a difference.
Dr. Hassan, I'm looking at also what the report by NACADA. We are talking about 15 years. 15 years. In the US, you cannot take alcohol. You're not allowed to take alcohol until you're 21 years old. In Kenya, it's a bit on the lower side, 18. But NACADA report is damaging, 15 years. And still, when you're at that, we are looking at young people below 18 consuming alcohol. And still on top of that, we have a lot of people who are already addicted. The rehabilitation centers that we have in the country, they do not have the capacity. Cases of alcoholism, many are unknown and unannounced. How do we sort this out, Doc?
Allow me to touch briefly on what my colleague has said. I think it is important to set some few records straight. It's a Kenyan way that when certain issues occur, people will want to create new offices or new agencies to do the same work that you are paying for other people. What do I mean? I don't think if all the police officers are dealing with alcohol or they are not doing their part. It will over 100K police officers. We don't think even 1,000 or 2,000 of them are dealing with this. But when you institute certain procedures in a system, we want to adhere to that system. I always tell people, every time we have a problem, and it starts from the top. Look at the elections. Every time, what do you call, Electoral Commission or IEBC, they complete elections, people say we don't want them, we want a new chapter. And we cannot do that for government workers. Police officers are there to enforce laws. The police officers are there to do their work, and they should do their work the way it is required by the law. If they are not willing to do so, and I get the point from the CS that all those agencies who are tasked to take up those responsibilities must adhere to it. Now, coming to your point in terms of the age bracket of our young thugs engaging themselves in substance abuses or alcohol, for that matter, I think it's a cultural issue. Because police cannot police over every family. It is the responsibility of the society to make sure that they oversee the behaviors and the conduct of their children every day. And that's why we are called parents. And if parents are not able to conduct that, then the challenge that will come is that police will not be seeing every person. Our children will be engaged in substance abuse, and we will have a nation that is that will be destroyed, or a nation that will not be productive. There's no, I don't see why even we are categorizing alcohol. We must clearly come out and say that alcohol should be regulated with the highest strong terms. We should not just take it simple. When our parents drink in our functions, when our children are present, we have already lost the game. You see parents taking their children into the clubs. They drink and they tell the children to watch, to sit around here and eat chips.
Yes.
No, that is not the way. You are already destroying this child's mental status. He wants to have the fantasy that you as a parent enjoying, and he wants to see what is there. Children are very curious.
Actually, that would be we'll be looking at that, because as parents, we're not setting a good example to our children. But coming to you, Elizabeth, we are looking at laws that we are bending every now and then. We're talking about the age of 15. That is very low, if you ask me. In countries where you have to be 21 to partake of any alcoholic beverages, that law is followed to the letter. But unfortunately, here in the country, we look like we are bending some of these laws. 15, that is very, very young.
Yes, I must...
And some of the examples we are setting as parents as well.
Yes, I have to respond to something he has raised on there not being enough regulations. We have a very good law. The Mututo law, or the Alcoholic Drink Control Act 2010, is a very good law. But currently, we have over 20 cases in court that have been brought by various stakeholders challenging the implementation of that law. So I think the move that the government has done today, calling all the stakeholders, because it's a matter of agreeing to work together as stakeholders, be it the police, be it the bar owner, because some people will think that this law has come to curtail how they operate their business, to limit the hours of operation. But if you look at the bigger picture on what benefit it's going to give to the society, then we will work towards its implementation. So the problem is not there being enough regulation. We have very good laws. The only challenge we are having is implementation. It is the resistance that we are getting from the industry players. It is the idea or the notion that the government is out to curtail people's businesses. So let's work together, all the stakeholders that are involved, to ensure that the law is implemented. Then I think we won't have an issue, actually. Yes.
Oscar, we are preaching water, unfortunately, drinking wine as parents, and some of the examples that parents want to see is their children not partaking alcohol, but then themselves, not only do they partake alcohol, a lot of our parents are alcoholics. We are not setting a good example for the young ones.
Yeah, what happens is that when one individual in a family gets into alcoholism, it affects the whole development of the entire family. And you know very well that the smallest unit of any society is the family. If a father, a mother, or a brother, or anybody is drowned in alcohol, then the whole system is mismanaged. There's no development in that particular family. So when leaders come to create awareness, when leaders take, like whatever what the CS is talking about, I think the multi-sectoral move that is going, we must involve the family. We must involve the people at the grassroots local. And they have to own this war against alcoholism. And you've seen women in some of these places in Muranga and where, trying to come out and fight against this alcoholic menace. Those are the groups to actually include. This thing, if we talk about the bottom-up approach, this is where we need a real bottom-up approach. That the people who are affected, the society that are ravaged by this alcoholic menace, please involve them, and it doesn't have to be even overt use of overt power against this thing. It is about consultation, it's about involving the people at the grassroots level, tell them about the difficulty, what damage the alcoholism is doing to our society. They will tell you who actually brings this alcohol in this society, who is involved, who is destroying our own kids. So the people themselves, the citizens themselves, should own this war against alcoholism, because it actually brings things like depression, it causes homelessness, it causes a lot of things that destroy the smallest unit of society, that is actually the family. So when we still move and just involve the police and think that the police will deal with it, and we've seen it has failed because we're using overt force to deal with it. But when we involve the locals, the Likuru down there, the village elder down there, they will say, if the village elders say that we don't want alcohol in our society, they will take it up and they will deal with it. So those Mlangukumis that we had, that we've always been using, should be able to be involved in dealing with alcoholism. Actually, it is a societal problem that needs a societal response.
All right, and allow me, guys, now to bring in Honorable Geoffrey Ruko, who is the Member of Parliament for Mbeere North. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana. Now, apologies for that mix-up. That is why I'm quite sure you've come a little bit late. But we are looking at the war on illicit. But before then, I'm going to pose two questions for you. One, as Parliament, you gave the green light for the Haiti mission, and unfortunately now the Prime Minister has already resigned. I would like you to pick your mind on that, and also on the alcoholism that we have in the country. In 2012, the Alcohol Control Act came into place, the famous Motuda laws, and unfortunately we are not following it to the letter. Do we need a little bit more tweaking of the legislation to make the consumption and sale of illicit alcohol a thing of the past?
One, about Haiti, and thank you for this chance, and sorry for coming late. For Haiti, any nation in the world is a going concern. There's no nation which stops because the president or the prime minister has resigned, or even the cabinet, the entire cabinet has resigned. Haiti is a sovereign nation. It remains there, whether there is a prime minister or a president or not. And the Republic of Kenya has an obligation to support any nation, not only Haiti, any nation wherever in the world, because anarchy anywhere is anarchy everywhere. Whatever is happening in Haiti can affect the Republic of Kenya, can affect other nations. And through the experience which Kenya has gained over the time in peacekeeping missions from the time of President Moi all the way to now. The uniformed discipline forces of the Republic of Kenya, they have gained a lot of experience in restoring law and order in different parts of the world, from Namibia to Yugoslavia to Sierra Leone, to Bosnia, to Somalia, to South Sudan, many countries out there. And at the moment we have quite a number of presence already in different countries, in Congo, in DRC, and several other nations. So I think Kenya has gained the experience in peacekeeping mission, and not only peacekeeping mission which is done by the military, but also where the police service is involved, because police, their main responsibility is to protect life and protect property. And we have seen in Haiti, things are not quite okay. It's not a military kind of engagement which is going on in Haiti. It's just break of law and order. Everybody is a law by himself. People have guns at their disposal. People are controlling villages. Gang A as a village which is controlling, the other gang as another quarter of the town which is they are controlling. So whether the Prime Minister has resigned or not, the engagement between the government of Kenya and the people of Haiti still stands. And I am firmly with the President that it is the right thing to do, because United Nations requested Kenya government to provide policing service to Haiti. That is a very strong vote of confidence to the men in uniform of our republic, and we should encourage them. They have been trained to do this. These are men who have sacrificed a lot for our nation, and they are well trained. We should encourage them. They are professionals. Those who are saying it's not the right thing to do, most of them are not professionals. I'm sure any professional who has been trained in security matters will agree with the President that is the right thing to do.
All right.
We are not sending quacks to Haiti. We are sending people who are well trained. And Kenya will not commit money, no taxpayers' money which will be spent in Haiti. It is United Nations money which should be used to pay the services offered by the police officers in Haiti. So I think it's the right thing to do. They will gain experience, and when they come back, I expect all of them to be promoted and honored with the medals of freedom of the Republic of Kenya.
All right.
As far as there was a second question.
Yes.
About illicit brew. I think we have enough laws. One, I want to congratulate the Deputy President of the Republic, Rigathi Gachagua, for the job he's doing. He's very much committed in ensuring the problem is going to be solved one and for all. Also, the Minister in charge of internal security, Professor Kidiki, they are doing a very good job. The problem is the businessmen, because it's one of the quickest way of making money. The businessmen. The problem is not our people, our youth. The problem is those who are licensed to sell alcohol in the Republic of Kenya. And they are just getting ethanol and methanol, they mix and they label the bottles. Our young men are consuming poison in the name of alcohol. These are men and women who should be condemned by any leader in the Republic of Kenya. Their license should be cancelled, and not only cancelled, they should be prosecuted for selling poison to the youth of the Republic. I roast in 2022 October, better not roast 5 young men because of consuming this illicit brew. There is few others who are in and out of hospital up to now. Some of them are bribed because of consuming this poison.
And that is why, Mheshimiwa, I asked whether do we need some form of amendments in the Alcohol Control Act, that the famous Mutudo laws. Because the reason I'm asking this is because since these laws were passed, we continue losing lives every now and then. 17 in Kirinyaga, 5, as you talked about, in 2022 in Mbeere North. You remember the issue that was in Embu town, the Kadavuria issue?
Yes.
And we cannot control this if at all we do not change some of the laws that we have or try and make them more powerful. A good example Oscar has mentioned is like giving Nakada some biting teeth.
I think we need to change the way bars are licensed. We remove the licensing authority from the county government to Nakada. So that if you want to operate a bar, you apply for the license not to the county government, but to Nakada. County government of the Republic of Kenya, most of them are looking at ways of raising revenue. And they don't mind, so long as you come and pay 2,000, 3,000, you are given your operating license in the middle of the village. All corners, you can go to most of small towns in the Republic of Kenya. Small bars are in very, funny places. So I think we need to ensure the licensing bit is changed to be taken back to Nakanda, and so that it can be a bit strict, in terms of who is getting the license and what is this you are selling. But having said that, the main problem is the businessmen who are actually very wealthy, who have made huge amount of money, because it's one of the quickest way of making money. And this money is being shared from some of the highest offices within the enforcement sector. Let me tell you, without fear or favor, the bar which killed 5 people in Mbeere North in October 2022, that bar was being operated by the OCS of Chicago. It was one of the bitter experience. All the police station, all the police men and women who are there, all of them were transferred. I don't know where they were taken. But you can imagine, the operator of the bar which killed 5 people in Sianyi, in Mbeere North, was operated by an OCS of that area. So enforcement of our rules and of laws need to be enhanced, and the people who can enhance this enforcement is the police officers. Right. That's why I'm happy with what happened in Kirinyaga. Several were sacked. The entire station was chased away. Policemen who are there in charge were sacked, and even they are the policemen who took the illicit brew and went and sold after it was arrested. Okay? So we have a problem as far as enforcement of laws is concerned, and we humbly request the Inspector General of Police, please, let's work together with the effort of His Excellency the Deputy President and the Minister in charge to ensure it is well aligned.
All right.
Because I'm telling you, this is a poison. It's poison that is young men are drinking in our villages.
Yeah. And we were hoping that and it's confirmed by the courts so that we may not land into lawsuits. Wakili here can tell us more. And Doc, we will be, let's first of all cross over to Kisumu, but before then, I'll leave you with this. We are also having an issue with prescription drugs, because from alcohol, we have tobacco, we have cat, we had cannabis, and then prescription drugs, which have skyrocketed. The use has skyrocketed in the last couple of weeks and months. We will be talking about that. But let's first of all go to Kisumu County, where my colleague Achola Simon is hosting the regional commissioner, but I'm told that link is not ready yet. Doc, the demand for cheap alcohol and prescription drugs, or even a combo of the same. You find somebody is using alcohol, tobacco, cat, cannabis, and some are even using that as with the prescription drugs as well.
I think the biggest challenge we have as each and every one of our panelists has echoed, is not lack of regulation. It is strictly following those regulations or enforcing it. Pharmacy and Poisons Board regulates all drugs that are supposed to be prescribed, and any medic who tries to sell drugs that are meant for prescriptions over the counter, then there are also regulations that governs that. I think if I look at, as Wakili the other time put it, we have no challenge in regulations. We have enough of them. But enforcing it is where the challenge is coming from. And you'll find in most of the chemists, the so-called chemists or pharmacists, you come over the counter and you ask for any drug, you're actually just given. That shows that they know there is no one who will go to question them. They have developed confidence to the fact that they don't even look around and say, hey, if I sell this particular drug which is meant for prescription over the counter, what is the consequences? They don't have that cautiousness. And I tend to think as the government pulls together all these agencies who are tasked to do all these roles, I think we need to find a way in which enforcement of laws are effectively done in every location. And again, it goes beyond the person who is claiming to be the professional. You know, you are trained to be a professional and respecting your professionality. There is ethics that governs that. And if you don't adhere to that, your professionalism is nothing. But again, it's all about how we present our things in every aspect of our day-to-day life within the society. So I know we have already developed a break, a break between the society and the systems enforcers. And the best thing is that I remember the best thing is that we must adhere to those procedures and enforce them very strictly. If I may tell you, a friend of mine sometimes back was giving me a story. At the University of Nairobi here, there's someone who used to sell sweets on the bridge there, down there. And that was during the late President Moi. And people did not know that that particular person role was not to sell those sweets. He was an intelligence officer. And he was effectively monitoring over any irregularities within the society or within the institution or anything that is infiltrating into the institution. Because you remember, in universities were places to go and attack government. The universities were places to destroy young people with drugs and a lot of other things. Universities are where people are committing suicide, people are committing homicides, people are killing each other.
Yeah.
Now, those installations that the government put that time gives you confidence that there was clear chain of connection between the society and the law enforcers.
Okay.
And I tend to think the problem we have at the moment is that if I go to one of the chemists and I ask for a drug, the pharmacist who is there will not ask me whether I have a prescription or not. He will ask for the money and start giving me the cost and telling me, I'll give you a discount of this amount, 5%. This is how much it costs. I have the drug. And start prescribing, actually, and tell the person the dosages for that particular drug, which is not their job. They may know how dosages are for prescriptions are given, but it's at the discretion of the doctor to strictly give out what kind of dosages a patient gets. Not the normal way that every drug has this, you take 3 times or 2 times, or you take 500 milligrams, or you take 1 gram. No, there is a condition that warrants certain dosages and prescriptions, which is at the discretion of the prescribing doctor.
Okay.
Then there's also the danger of you being exposed on that particular drug, because drugs are by nature poison that treats one side and the other side destroys your system if misused. And that's why we think that our regulatory bodies must wake up from their comfort zones and try to enforce laws that have been empowered to them by the laws of Kenya and the Constitution of Kenya.
All right.
And I don't think if we are lacking any regulations or regulatory bodies
just need to follow
backing up
to the letter.
Yes, we only need to follow those regulations to the letter.
All right. And Elizabeth, I'm looking at the pub owners. They say that some have threatened to go to court to seek redress, and especially on the law that the 300 meters from a residential. I'm looking at estates like Mbakasi, I'm looking at Kawangware, Githurai, where you find that pubs, the first floor is a pub, the second floor people are living in the second floor, the third floor is maybe a church. And 300 meters in such estates is going to be a tall order even for the government.
Yes.
Do they have a case? Maybe most of them actually, most of them bought those plots a long time ago and converted them to pubs.
They do have a case. And as I've said, there are very many cases in court already with regard to implementation of the law. And you know what the law provides, actually, you know, by the time you're getting a license, it means you have actually adhered to the requirements of, you know, for you to be given that particular license. So of course they are going to challenge that. Some may actually be successful, but if you look at the Mututo law, it also provides, there are provisions that provide that we should not have the bars near schools. And yet, if you go to some of these places, that is not been adhered to.
Yeah.
So some may be successful, some might not. Yeah, depending on the particular circumstances. Yes.
So you say at least the pub owners will be listened to by the court.
They'll be listened, and the court will decide on merit.
Yeah. Mheshimiwa,
Yes.
we are talking about also the prescription drugs. I don't know whether we are having anything or we have left it to the poisons. Is it the pharmacy and poisons board to ensure that the prescription drugs are not disbursed to people who should not be?
Pharmacy and Poison Board last year brought a bundle of regulations on how pharmaceuticals should be regulated in the Republic of Kenya to ensure that is of high quality and they are not poisonous to the population. And we went through those regulations in the Committee of Delegated Registration. They were quite detailed regulation. So I hope they have been followed in the market in the most appropriate way. But having said that, in every market there are cartels, there are crooks. So it is upon the Farmers and Poison Board to keep on checking again and again that these regulations are adhered to. They are very comprehensive regulations because I can assure you went through those regulations with a tooth comb in Kisumu. So let them be enforced. Let there be a serious monitoring of these regulations have been followed, because we have seen instances where drugs which are not very, very recommended still circulating within the market, especially for the pediatric, for the children, which are not recommended and still circulating in the market. It should be well monitored by those who are responsible. But at the same time, not only pharmaceuticals, but also pesticides. We have pesticides in our market which are not supposed to be in the market. At the moment, I'm working on a statement which I will launch next week, because we have pesticides which are carcinogenic, which are causing cancer, and they are in the Kenyan market. This is something which should not be happening in our republic. You keep on wondering, why do we have so many cases of cancer in each and every village? People are suffering. Government is putting a lot of money in cancer treatment in different hospitals. People are moving from Kenya to India for treatment. Why? It is because of some of the pesticides which have been used in our farms and also going swept to the rivers. So nobody is safe. You may say, oh, I'm not in that region where this pesticide is mostly used. But once it rains, this pestilence is swept into our waters, we consume that waters, so everybody is affected. So these are some of the things which must be regulated properly in our market.
And we will be keen on that, because I do remember back in the 80s there were some coffee spraying chemicals that were also banned by the government because of being carcinogenic. Let me give you 30 seconds each as we wrap up. Doctor?
I think there's no nation which has succeeded in selling alcohol in the development of any nation. So no nation has ever succeeded or developed using resources from alcohol. And therefore, I don't see the issue of people saying business versus alcohol. Alcohol destroys a nation, alcohol destroys generations, and alcohol destroys society. And therefore, mine is to say that government should come very firm on the sale of alcohol and adopt other countries. Developed countries have developed stringent measures in controlling alcohol, for example, or even drugs. For example, in UK, you'll only find, in every estate, you'll only find one pharmaceutical dispensing unit. You will not find another place, and probably you will not find a single alcohol center. All the alcohol place is localized somewhere, and the purpose of putting things in a low scale is to have an opportunity to oversee, control, and regulate it.
All right. And because of the interest of time, Oscar?
Yeah, I think, the last time I was here, we were discussing about Mbakasi gas explosion. So it was chaos again. And now this week is alcohol. I don't know, next week you're calling me to discuss about another thing.
We'll be looking at the state as well.
Yeah, maybe water shall have been contaminated or something like this. But anyway, the problem is enforcement, lack of regulations. We have a lot of problems. We have the hawkers menace in town, we have Metetu menace, we have now alcohol and prescription drugs, and now Mheshimiwa is coming up with the pesticides, and now we have gas explosion. I think the problem is mostly on enforcement, how we enforce our regulations. We have very good documented papers, very good documented laws, but enforcement is zero.
All right. Elizabeth?
Yes. For me, as a closing remark, let's all come together as stakeholders to ensure that the law is implemented. The last time I was here, I think we were talking about the land task force, where various stakeholders have come together to ensure that we finish all the disputes that we are having in Nairobi. Number two, corruption. To our officers, I think it's about time we go back to the drawing board. Let us stop being greedy. Let us stop being a lawless nation. Let us stop, let's just be morally upright, ideally. Then most of these things, they won't come to affect us in the end. And let's respect the spirit of the drafters of the Mututhu law. I believe they had the best interests of the Kenyans at heart.
Mheshimiwa, as we wrap up in 1 minute.
We need to support the government effort in fight against illicit brew.
Maybe you can say what you're doing in your constituency, because I've seen MPs spearheading the fight against illicit in their constituency.
Yes, we are working very closely with OCSs in my constituency. I was there over the weekend, and I came out strongly asking every person in Mbeere North, all the young people in Mbeere North, to work together. Let's avoid indulging ourselves in this poison. This is not alcohol. It is poison to our health, to our body. So we need to, if we have to take alcohol, we have alcohol that is within the standards required, which can be consumed. But this other one, which is killing our families, we need to seriously avoid it, stop it, inform the law enforcement officers who is selling those banned poisonous alcohol, so that they can be eradicated completely within our community, not only in Mbeere North, but in the entire Republic of Kenya, and mostly in Mount Kenya region, where it is quite rampant than many other regions. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. That has been Honorable Geoffrey Ruko, who is the MP for Mbeere North. Just next to him, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert. Just next to him, we have Oscar Omondi, who is a lecturer and also a political scientist, putting things into perspective. And last but not least, Elizabeth Wanjiru Ndongo, who is an advocate of the High Court and also the Vice Chair of the Law Society of Kenya, Nairobi branch. And correction, she says that the branch elections for LSK will be in May.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. That's why we'll put a cap on that bit. But when I'll be back, we'll be talking about the film industry. We have the Kalasha Awards. And by the way, the Kalasha Awards this year have entered the highest number of entrants. We have the Academy Awards signings and all that. If you're an artist and also interested in arts, well, that is a discussion for you. We'll be talking to Timothy Owase, who is the CEO of the Kenya Film Commission, in just a bit. So thank you so much for joining us on this hour. Let's meet on the other side.